على الفلاح.
At the time of Nuh alayhi salam, he said he had a few sons after the flood. One of them that we are 100% sure of, his name was Sam. Sam is where the Arabs and the likes of the Arabs came from. This man Sam, it is said that he had two brothers, Ham and Yafith. Ham, they believe that the Africans came from. Number two, Yafith, they say that the Caucasian people came from what we know today as the European. And the rest of them came from Sam. From Sam came two men whom the Arabs traced their lineage to. The first one is called Al-Qahtan. Al-Qahtan existed about a few hundred years before Ismail alayhi salam. They're called the original, genuine, pure Arabs. And the name Arabi didn't exist before Al-Qahtan. He had a son named Ya'rab. And from his name, they took the name Arab. Now there are also Arabs called Al-Arab Al-Ba'ida, the extinct Arabs. They are Ad and Thamud and the likes of them. Extinct. The only thing we have of them is their buildings that are carved into mountains. You have no remnants of them. Then you have the third type of Arabs, the Arabs who live in Middle East and so on. There was a tribe from Yemen. What happened to them was that they had a river from which they drank from and they used it for their plantation and their survival. It was called Ma'rab. The dam was broken and everything dried. The Yemenis had no more water. And the Arabs that were there were many tribes with many chieftains. They started to separate in the world. Arabs, some of them went to Iraq. Some of them went to Sham. We're talking maybe, 5,000 years ago. Another tribe called Thaqif, they went to Al-Ta'if. From the time of Ismail and Ibrahim alayhi salam, there was a tribe named Jurhum. And they came from Yemen looking for water. They found Ismail and Hajar. They lived among them. Ismail alayhi salam grew up. And Ismail alayhi salam learned the Arabic language just as good, probably even better than them. He was a poet, eloquent, Arabic-speaking prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we know that the story goes on where Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail built the Kaaba. And when they built the Kaaba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Ibrahim alayhi salam to stand and call to the people to come to it. And they will come to you from every far corner and deep areas of the world. This, my dear brothers and sisters, is nothing but a miracle. The Kaaba was actually built by Ibrahim alayhi salam, first of all, rectangular. It had no cover over it. It was just bricks. And there was the Hajar al-Aswad, the black rock. And so the Kaaba became venerated. They began to do tawaf. Ibrahim alayhi salam made the sunnah of all the rituals that we do today, the same ones. Everything that we do today is from the sunnah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It was lost, half of it was lost along the way, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam brought it back to the way of his father Ibrahim alayhi salam. Let's look now at what happens next. Did you know, at least for the next 2,000 years or less, the Arabs everywhere in the world, not a single Arab did shirk. They all stayed on Tawheed, on the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. There was no shirk in the Arab world, ever, until something happened. There was a man by the name of Amr ibn Luhay. This guy, Amr ibn Luhay, existed about 500 years before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what happened was, remember Jurhum? I told you they came to Kaaba and they lived with Hajar. There was another tribe called Khuzaa. Amr ibn Luhay was from them. And he was their big man. They all respected him. He was big, he was everything. They wanted to take over Mecca. So they had a battle with Jurhum and they beat the Jurhum tribe. So the Jurhum, they went and buried Zamzam. for the next 500 years or so, nobody could know where Zamzam is. Allah would not allow Zamzam to be shared by a man who he knows is soon going to introduce idolatry into Arabia. There were still some Jurhum people there. Amr ibn Luhay. He became the authority of Mecca. Everything he said, everybody followed. Amr ibn Luhay, this man, he was a tradesman. So he went to Sham, the heart of trade at that time. And he met a people called the Amalekah. In the Bible, they're called the Amalekites. The Amalekah were a respected civilization by the world because of their size, especially by the Arabs. And he found them worshipping idols. He said, "What's this?" Rocks carved out. And they said, "We asked them for provision. When we're in war, we ask them for God to help us, and they call upon God, the ultimate God, to help us. They're our channel between us and God." And Amr ibn Luhay liked that idea. So he said, "I want to follow this." They said, "Good on you. We'll gift you one of these gods." And he took a god of theirs by the name of Hubal. Hubal is the original idol of the Arabs. He brought him into Mecca and he ordered the tribes and everybody, they must worship the idols. Everybody had to obey. He brought in all sorts of idols and he gave each tribe an idol to worship. For example, there was Wad, Suwa, Yaghuth, Ya'uq and Nasr. They were the gods from the time of Nuh alayhi salam. Each tribe took one. And the way Amr ibn Luhay knew these names of these idols, the shaitan actually came to him in a dream. And he said to him, "Hey, there's Wad, Suwa, Yaghuth, Ya'uq and Nasr. These are the oldest idols from Nuh alayhi salam's time. Make them gods." That's how he brought it in, Amr ibn Luhay. The shaitan helped him. He made new rules. He said to each tribe, "Listen, some of you who don't live in Mecca, and some of you who need to travel away from Mecca, you have to worship God." They said, "We're worshiping God." He said, "No, you have to have a channel between you and God, Allah." They started to worship these idols in such a way. The Kaaba was filled with 2 golden deers, jewels, gold, everything. They all worshipped idols. Some of them, they steered away from shirk. There were also groups of Christians. These Christians were mixed. Some of them were what some people call the Unitarians. In those days, they were the people who were still worshipping Allah correctly and accepted Isa alayhi salam as the prophet and messenger of Allah. These were proper Christians. And then there were what you call Pauline Christians. And these guys, they followed this guy named Paul, St. Paul. Everything he said they believed. It changed the idea of Jesus Christ to be Son of God. One of the most bizarre 2 idols that you'll ever read about in the Arab world, their names were Isaf and Naila. These 2 were actual real people. They were a man and a woman that lived in Yemen. And they fell in love with each other. Story of romance. The families didn't want them to marry each other. So they ran away. Where did they go? They went to Mecca. And they decided to meet there because nobody's going to suspect them to do anything haram there, right? They fell into zina in front of the Kaaba. So it says in the hadith that Isaf and Naila committed zina in front of the Kaaba and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned them into statues. They took them and placed Isaf on Safa and Naila on Marwa. And the people started to make sa'i. The Arabs forgot what they had done and they ordered that these 2 statues be brought down and worshipped. People started worshipping Isaf and Naila, the 2 statues that committed zina in front of the Kaaba. The Arabs also believed that the angels, they said they are his daughters. By the way, something important. The Arabs didn't actually worship the idols themselves. They were intermediaries. It means that they believed in Allah. That's the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hanif, away from shirk. But they had this idea that if they worship these idols, God will listen to them more. My brothers and sisters in Islam, then what happened? In Yemen, there were Arabs and there was a new king. His name was Tabban Asad. He was from Qawm Tubba. Tubba is the title of the king of Yemen. He had a son, and they were both tradesmen. So they went to a place called Yathrib, and he left his son there to do some trade business with them, while Tabban Asad, the king of Yemen, went to Ashab to do some business over there. He received news that the Madani people had a bit of a conflict with his son. They had a fight and they killed him. So Tabban Asad got angry. He comes back to Yathrib and he wants to take them on. He brings an army and starts to have battles with the people of Yathrib. He found that they were courageous and strong in the day. And when they came to settle, to rest in the night, that was the rules of war, they used to rest in the night. The Yathrib people used to come and bring food and water to their enemies. And Tabban, he looked at it, he thought, this is amazing. But still, he thought, I'm going to get the revenge of my son. Two Jewish scholars, and they said to him, listen, what do you want from Yathrib? He said, I want to destroy it. He said, you're not going to be able to now. He goes, why? He said, we have in our Torah that this land, Yathrib, a prophet is going to emerge in it. Allah will not let you touch it. Do whatever you want. They started telling him about the Torah and Judaism. Then Tabban Asad converted to Judaism, became a Jew. So then he said, come back with me to Yemen, I'm going to convert the whole of Yemen into Jews. And then some people, they were tribes, they were trying to take over Mecca. Remember the old time Ismail, the Khuza'ah people took over Mecca and Zamzam was buried. And the people of the original people of Ismail alayhi salam, they're still upset till that day, but they can't do anything about it. Tabban Asad, this tribe comes up to him and says, they want to cause a fight, they want to annihilate these people. So they said to him, would you like some jewelry and gold? He said, yes. You can see that Kaaba over there? It's got jewelry and gold in it. Truly, they have two big deers made out of gold. Now the Jewish people, those two scholars are with him. They said to him, Wallah, we do not know a more sacred and holy house of Allah than this one. The Jews always do this. If you dare to touch it, Allah will destroy you. He said, what should I do then? He's a Jew now, right? He said, do tawaf around that out of respect. He said, all right, I will. But what about you? Why don't you do tawaf? They didn't want to do tawaf. And they said to him, Wallahi, if there were no idols in it, we would do tawaf. So he did his tawaf. Tabban Asad fell in love with the Kaaba. He went to sleep that night and he saw someone showing him putting clothing or material over the Kaaba. The Kaaba was still plain, it was bare, just rocks at the moment. So he thought of the idea, he went and put clothing over the Kaaba. And then he thought it doesn't look good. So then he got silk from Yemen, ordered it, and started putting silk cloths over the Kaaba. The people who were around it, they loved this idea, it was a great respect, they took it on and it became a sunnah. Tabban Asad, this king of Yemen, he went back to Yemen and he said, everybody become a Jew. And the entire Yemen became Jewish. Then, my dear brothers and sisters, in Yemen, a civil war broke out. After Tabban Asad, the king, died, a civil war broke out. People started fighting each other, and one of the children of Tabban, his name was Dhun Nuwas. And this man, he managed to take over authority. Now, there's an amazing story about this man, Dhun Nuwas. There was a Christian monk, a good Christian monk who worshipped Allah. He went to Africa to give da'wah, preach. And one of the Arabs of Najran, he took him and turned him into his slave. Now, he used to see this Christian monk, every time he entered into the room, he had nur, light around him. He said, what's this light? He said, I'm a man of God. I worship Allah alone, and my religion is the correct one of Jesus Christ and so on. And this Arab man, he said, no, I don't believe in it. He used to worship a tree. And this monk, he said to him, if my God beats your God, will you enter Christianity? He said, of course. So he stood in front of the tree and This man kept making dua. So subhanAllah, the miracle is that Allah sent fire one night and the tree got burnt. And this man, he thought his religion is correct, he converted to Christianity and set him free. And this monk kept giving da'wah until some people became Christians, proper Christians, Unitarian, and they went back to Yemen. In Yemen, they preached a little bit, and there was one man who worshipped inside of a cave in the mountains. Dhul Nawas, who is now the king of Yemen, he believed in sorcery. So he had this right-hand man who was his favorite sorcerer, and he ruled the people with sorcery. And there was this young boy who wanted to become an apprentice of this sorcerer. Remember the boy in the king story? This is where it happened. About 50 years before the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Actually, maybe even less. And this young boy, he went to become a sorcerer. He passed by this cave on his way, and he heard this man, a monk, Christian monk, saying words that he's never heard before. Cutting the story short, he went inside, and he liked his words. The young boy left the sorcerer, and he converted to Christianity and began to preach about the oneness of Allah. The king Nawas, he found out about this monk, so he brought him and killed him. The boy became very upset, so the king took him, go and take him to the highest cliff and throw him. They went, and the boy came back by himself to the king. He said, where's my soldiers? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the mountain shake and they all died. He goes, why did you come back? He said, because I want to prove to you that my Lord is stronger than me. He said, what? I'm the greatest God. He brought his soldiers, they're going to take him into a ship and take him to the middle of the sea and throw him into the sea. They went to the middle of the sea and the boy came back by himself. He said, what happened to my soldiers? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drowned them. And he said, there's only one way you can kill me. He said, how? He said, you've got to gather all the people of Yemen. And you have to say in front of everybody, in the name of Allah, the Lord of this young man. You have to say it loud so everybody can hear you. He stood, tied him up, put an arrow, and he said as he said. And subhanAllah, the boy died. He gave his life so that, in order to save the people and to Islam. All of the people of Yemen converted to Christianity, the proper Christianity. And Dhul Nawas became so angry, they dug up a huge trench. These are the people in the Quran are called Ashab al-Ukhdud. قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود وما نقموا منهم إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء شهيد. There was a story in Sahih Muslim about a woman who was carrying her baby, and she stopped. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made her baby speak. The baby said to its mother, "Isbiri ya umma, be patient, O mother, فَإِنَّكِ عَلَى الْحَقِّ, you are upon the truth, and you are of the people of Jannah." So she threw herself as well. One man escaped. I think his name was Umayr. He managed to run away. Dhul Nawas went after him, but he went into the sea and ran somehow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him. And this man, Allah saved him to do something. He wanted to save the people of Yemen and Najran. So because he was a Christian, he thought of who? He thought of Caesar. So he went all the way to Rome. He said to him, this is what happened to our people, they are Christians. And Caesar became very, very angry. He was one of the just kings, actually. And he said, I can't do anything because I'm so far away. However, I'm going to send a letter to the king of Ethiopia, Negus. So he went and gave that letter to Negus and Najashi. And Najashi got very angry at this, and he sent an army to Yemen and Najran. One of the commanders of that army, his name was Abraham, 10-15 years before the Prophet ﷺ. They reached Yemen and they had a big war fight with Dhul Nawas until they annihilated his army, and Dhul Nawas ran away into the sea and drowned himself. Dhul Nawas. And the Ethiopians, the Abyssinians, took over Yemen and Najran, and now they became the authority. Yemen and Najran now became a Christian civilization. Of course, there were still Arabs among them and they were upset and sad. Ethiopians are conquering their authority over them, but they couldn't do anything anymore. Abraham, there was a man, another commander, who he and him had a dispute. And this other man, he was oppressing the people and he was trying to do wrong things. So he and Abraham had a fight. And they kept fighting and fighting until they said, let's stop. Let's us man to man, let's have a duel. And whoever beats the other person becomes the king. And as they were fighting, the other commander, he cut the nose of Abraham. And then Abraham killed the commander and he became the king. Negus of Ethiopia found out and he got very angry. He said, I'm going to send an army there. We're going to shave his hair off and we're going to get him, humiliated. Abraham, he got upset and got really sad and he sent a letter to him and he put his hair, he shaved it off and put it in a little bag and said, Negus, look, this is my hair and I've been humiliated and I'm only did it because the commander was oppressing the people and so on and so forth. And so Negus left him alone. Abraham, he wanted to please Negus. He wasn't happy. He wanted to please his king. So he said, there's this place where the Arabs go to, it's called the Kaaba. I'm going to build a big church where all the Arabs whom we conquered will come and do their Hajj and Tawaf at this church instead of the Kaaba. Just for my king Negus, so he can be pleased with me. So he built a huge church called Al-Qullais. And he made it so magnificent. And he started calling the Arabs to do Hajj tour, otherwise he will conquer them. He sent a letter to these special people that were called Ahlul Nasir. Those people who are called the Nasir, they are just exaggerated kuffar. Now what did the Nasir do? They were the people who could play around with the months of the Arabs. There were 4 months of the Arabs: Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, Muharram, and Rajab. These are called the forbidden months. Till today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept them. Al-Ashhur al-Hurum, where nobody is allowed to start war in the Haram, in Mecca. These people, An-Nasir, they could play around with those months. Abraham wrote a letter to them because they were the powerful Arabs. They got very upset. So one of them comes into Al-Qullais, the church, and he defecates in it. Abraham got very upset and says, I'm going to go and destroy the Kaaba. Took a huge army and marched towards the Kaaba. With him was an elephant. This elephant's name was really Mahmud. Things happened along the way. The Arabs tried to stop him, but they couldn't. They failed. And there was an Arab who betrayed them and showed them where the Kaaba is. The Arabs till today, they say he's a bad man. Until he reached the Kaaba. Now, Abdul Muttalib, he's the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the year the Prophet ﷺ was born. So the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ was there. Abdul Muttalib was an extremely handsome man. Everyone who saw him and looked into his eyes felt an aura in his face and they respected him when he walked in. So this man Abdul Muttalib is the chief of Quraysh at that time. And Abraham, some connections happened and Abdul Muttalib was allowed to go to Abraham to speak to him. Abraham had taken some camels from the Arabs and kept them. Abraham sees him and he couldn't help but respect him. Abraham got off his throne, walked towards Abdul Muttalib and sat with him. And he said, what would you like? Abdul Muttalib said the following. He said, you've taken some camels from us. I want them back. As soon as he said that, Abraham goes, you with all your aura and respect, you come to ask me for a bit of camels? I thought you were going to come and tell me, don't destroy the Kaaba, turn away. I thought the Kaaba meant a lot for you. You come and ask me for camels? Oh, Allah, I respected you, now I don't anymore. Abdul Muttalib looks at him in all calmness and says, the camels belong to me. I protect them. As for that house, it has a Lord who protects it. He said, take your camels, get out, got angry, got the elephant, says, charge at the Kaaba. One of the Arabs managed to get away and he went into the ear of the elephant and said, be steadfast, stop, this is the house of Allah. And subhanAllah, the miracle happened. The elephant stopped and sat down. They faced the elephant in a different direction, the elephant went. Towards the Kaaba, it stopped. SubhanAllah. My brothers and sisters, Abraha got very upset, and as we were trying to get the elephant, subhanAllah, Abdul Muttalib, he took the people and said, go to the mountains, something terrible is going to happen. They still had that belief. And subhanAllah, as we know, they saw above them clouds of swarms of these birds that called Tayr al-Ababil, and they were carrying special types of rocks that were full of heat, and they dropped. Every soldier that this rock fell on, it caused fire and burning all over their bodies. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected his house. And Abraham died. My brothers and sisters in Islam, that was the year in which Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was born. It is approximately, in the Gregorian calendar, 570 CE, or 570 after Jesus Christ alayhi salam. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was born. This was the year, and they called it the year of the elephant.